Hey, it feels different, right?
Hello and welcome to episode 26 of Fantasy Sports. This is an episode that I knew heading into it'd be hard. For weeks now, I've been saying that the Ravens were going to win the Super Bowl. Clearly, if you've watched the games in the past week, the Ravens lost to the Chiefs 10-17 in the conference championship. And I had an initial reaction of being upset. But I think when you look at this team, right, and I'll talk more about why I think they lost this game, but the Ravens are a team that is complementary to their defense. Their offense is what it is. Their defense is where, the strength is. But this is a terrible loss. It's heartbreaking for me. For weeks now, I think it's been like 6 weeks, 7, 8, might be 2 months going on, talking about how Lamar and was going to win the MVP. They were going to win the Super Bowl. So it was definitely a blow to see them go out there and not perform at the level that I expected them to. Although I am a Steelers fan, I do have a deep love for the Ravens and Lamar. This team and its offense have so many holes on it that it can't be accustomed to winning because of its defense. And I think the best way to explain it is, although they had regular season success, and they did at times score plenty of points, and they had great offensive games, and it looked like they were everyone was complimenting each other. I think a majority of that was on Lamar Jackson, and not that playoff football isn't that of the regular season. It's just different. It is a different game. It is a different playoff experience, and I think a lot of their weaknesses were exposed, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, Lamar finished the game with 37 passes and 270 yards, a touchdown, a fumble, and a pick with 54 yards rushing. On paper, that's a decent game. It's a solid game when you expect, the fact that he almost threw 300 yards, rushed for 50, threw a touchdown. That's a decent game. You expect him to do a little more, but they ran the ball 8 times, and I feel like for their team, it's what defines their success is running the ball. They have the best rushing quarterback in the league, arguably the best rushing quarterback of all time. And you have running backs who are decent. Justice Hill and Gus Edwards are definitely serviceable running backs, but they definitely didn't perform up to the level that I expected them to. And you look at a team like, the Chiefs, who had way more ball control on the offensive side when, Mahomes attempted more passes, and they ran the ball 24 times with their running back. It's just a different team that understands what winning is. And I'm not saying the Ravens don't. I just don't think when it comes to what John Harbaugh has done in the past, 10 years, he hasn't done much when it comes to winning in the playoffs. He hasn't been successful. That offense hasn't been successful. We saw it this weekend when he just came out there with no game plan to really go out on offense. And although it is not him and it is offensive coordinator, you would think in meetings, you would want to establish the fact that you are home, you want to run the ball, you are a good running team against a weak rush defense and a very strong pass defense in the Chiefs. And you go out there and you throw the ball 40 times, it just doesn't make any sense. It's almost mind-numbing to expect a team to win a game doing the opposite of what you should be doing, which is running the ball against a team who has a weak front seven. Clearly, the Chiefs played a better game on both sides of the ball, but the Baltimore Ravens shut out the Chiefs in the second half of the game. You were only down, 10 points. To me, it's just like what throughout the course of each quarter didn't. Obviously we saw the fumble on the 1 yard line, the pick. There were turnovers, there were drives that were stopped due to certain things, but going out there and leaving points on the board, which they didn't really even do, is just so frustrating. I know obviously the Lions did, and that'll be another topic of discussion, but the Chiefs capitalized on every opportunity they had. They were able to put drives together. Mahomes started the game pretty much on fire, 11 for 11. And then he cooled off, and they didn't take advantage of the fact that Mahomes started so strong and fizzled out. It was almost like the opposite. They built off of they fell back because of the momentum of that first drive, and that carried throughout the whole game. Chiefs, in total going into this Super Bowl. I believe they're a stronger team than the 49ers when it comes to obviously their presence in the Super Bowl and what Mahomes is as a quarterback. I think he's extremely talented. I don't doubt his ability to win games. He's one of the best quarterbacks of all time and at his young age, especially with Kelsey and a running back like Pacheco and the pieces they do have on defense. It's interesting to think that they are making it again, like the fact that they played the Eagles last year and beat them, the fact that they're playing a team like the Ravens this year, who are another team that people thought were the best. You know, the Eagles were the best, and they beat them. So it always goes back to, are the Chiefs the best? Are the Chiefs the best team? You know, are the Chiefs just always going to be the best regardless of the record? And I think that's definitely a question to ask. But what I could say for the Ravens heading into the offseason, because I'd always talked about how they were having this, once-in-a-lifetime run, the fact that they were never going to get this opportunity again. I strongly believe that. I believe that they are going to lose a lot of pieces. They're going to lose their star defensive tackle. They're going to lose Clowney. Their secondary is solid. It's not great. I mean, obviously they have Hamilton and Humphrey, but they don't have a lot of pieces other than their two linebackers, Hamilton and Humphrey, that stand out to me in terms of defense. And on the offensive side of the ball, you don't really have a star running back. You have Zay Flowers, who's a rookie and was your best wide receiver. Odell's old, Aguilar's average, Andrews is good, but he didn't play great this season, obviously, regardless of injury. I think he's a great player, and I don't doubt the fact that he'll be back and great next year. I just look forward to seeing what shapes up in the offseason, especially after losing your defensive coordinator, knowing you're going to lose a lot of star defensive players, and really trying to focus in on what route they're going to take to put themselves back in this position. But that's enough for the Ravens. Very sad loss. Definitely was something I wasn't expecting on Sunday. I was definitely expecting a Ravens win at home. And as for the 49ers and Detroit game, this was a great game in comparison to the last game. Pretty much almost tripled the point total. Doubled the point total. We expected a 49ers, not blowout, I wouldn't say, but I definitely expected the 49ers to be a little bit better than the Lions. Not much better. I mean, I thought it was going to be a close game. But when it first started off, they went into halftime up 17, 24-7. I was like, oh, wow, the Lions have this pretty much locked up. They dominated the first half of the ball. It was kind of like what the 49ers did against the Packers when, they didn't play a great game. I was like, all right, the 49ers aren't as good as, people thought they were. And they came out and they put up, 27 in the second half to the Lions' second. Obviously, the fourth down pass and the fumble and not kicking the field goals is all playing into that. But I think the biggest mistake on the Lions' part was allowing the 49ers to consistently keep going. And I guess the best way for me to say that is I don't believe when I watched the game that defense didn't want to make adjustments, regardless of starting position, regardless of defensive coverages. They didn't throw many blitzes their way. They didn't change Cam Sutton out, regardless if he's your starter or not. A guy's getting killed all game. You got to take him out. It's like a basketball player shooting, 0 for 20, and you're like, we'll keep him in because he's, our star player. Obviously, you expect him to go out there and make plays, but when he's not making plays and it's the last game, it's pretty much all or nothing. You got to, look back and be like, man, we really should have maybe adjusted that. But I thought the Lions played a really good game, regardless of the second half. They came out and they dominated, and then they, obviously trickled off. But when I talk about the teams that lost, I feel like the biggest question is, what is it for them next? And the Lions are in the kind of same boat. Obviously, they have a very young team, very solid players, and the draft class they just had was really good with Gibbs, Laporta, Branch, all those players, and they have Goff, who obviously played a pretty good game. He had 280 yards and a touchdown. He didn't really make any mistakes at all, especially against the 49ers defense. He actually outplayed Purdy, which is the biggest thing of it. But McCaffrey obviously went out there and played very well. It was a very close game, so very similar stats in terms of yardage and total score. But the 49ers as a whole going into the Super Bowl, I think for them, what I would be looking for against the Chiefs is, again, it's always how can you stop Mahomes. I feel like that's what is the common denominator, and how can you take him away from winning them that game. The biggest thing for the 49ers is going to be that defense. In the past 2 weeks, it hasn't seemed like they really, maybe had their stuff together or had a complete, maybe not understanding, but a complete game where it looks like that 49ers defense with all those players who are constantly talked about has not dominated, but played an extremely well game. You have Warner, Greenlaw, Chase, Bosa, Armstead, Hargrave, Ward, the safety. I mean, you just have so many players on that defense. You expect them to kind of make plays at one point. And clearly, obviously, the Gibbs fumble was a play, but it wasn't really necessarily a play that was forced by them. Obviously, he kind of dropped the ball when it got in his hands on the handoff. But you expect them to go out there and kind of, show why they are the 49ers defense that's been talked about for years now. I think that's what the biggest focus for the 49ers could be, was really getting their defense in check. I think their offense has been solid. Obviously Purdy has been making the right plays. McCaffrey has been dominating. So that's what I would look for the 49ers going against the Chiefs. For the Chiefs, I think the biggest thing would be, how can we beat that defense, not how can we slow down the offense, because it's going to be hard to slow down that offense with McCaffrey running. So that's definitely an interesting balance in what both teams are looking for. But for the Lions, like I said, it again questions where are they going next year. I don't think this changes much for them. They retained Ben Johnson. The head coach obviously, was talking about the mistakes that he had made in the game, and I don't think he made any mistakes. Josh Reynolds had 2 big drops on the 3rd down and the 4th down, and the fumble. I mean, it was a lot of swings that happened. Could he have put points up on the board with the field goal? Sure, he could have, but could, a wide receiver who's getting paid millions of dollars to catch a football, catch a wide open pass? Yes. So it goes both ways. I don't think he made any mistakes. I don't agree with the people saying that the Lions should have taken the field goal. I think they did the exact thing. They called the exact play they wanted to call. They got the right look they wanted to go to. And unfortunately, they just didn't make the play. The play wasn't made. So it's not really a team error. It's more or less, or a coaching error. I think it's more or less a player error in terms of what happened on the field. With that being said, also, they had plenty of opportunities. I mean, you only scored 7 points, and the defense couldn't make a stop in the second half. So it's not just on one player or one miscue. It's really on the whole team as a whole to, play better. But yeah, I enjoyed this past weekend. I think a lot of people aren't looking forward to the Super Bowl matchup. I'm not super excited because obviously you don't want to see repeated success, and I think that's something that a lot of people agree on, is seeing another 49ers, Chiefs Super Bowl, seeing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again and again. It reminds you of the Patriots, and I know that when people hated Brady, I don't know if people hate Mahomes as much as Brady, was hated. But it is, man, I wish I could have saw Lamar in the Super Bowl, or I wish I could have saw Goff in the Super Bowl to shake things up. I don't want to see these two teams who have been, consistently good for years now play each other in the Super Bowls. I'd rather have seen a team like I'd love to see the Lions-Ravens matchup. That would have been a great matchup. Two teams who are just, in my opinion, way more interesting than the 49ers and the Chiefs at this point, with the personalities and players they have on the team play against each other on the biggest stage. But I'm still excited, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to all that comes with it, both teams involved. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Still grieving from the Ravens' loss. I'm looking forward to their offseason and what they're doing, as well as the Steelers. We just hired, the head coach from the Falcons as our offensive coordinator, which I think is a good move. I think hiring him in a run-heavy offense that we have now, especially what he did in the Titans when he had Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill. They made it to the playoffs, played extremely good. Arthur Smith. I think they did extremely well with how that offense ran. But as always, I appreciate you watching. And tune in next Wednesday when I talk about a little more about the Super Bowl. Thank you.